engaging experience for everyone. Okay, so let's start. Businesses for Responsible Tax Reform is a coalition of business leaders calling for policies that truly benefit America's small businesses. Since COVID-19 hit, we have been strongly advocating for relief packages and fixes to those packages that put Main Street small businesses like yours first. Today, we're joined by small business owners from across the country to discuss how they are surviving the economic fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic. We want to hear about your experiences with PPP loans and what kind of fixes you need from policymakers, the administration, and regulators to make those loans work for you. We also want to know what else you need from Washington to navigate these choppy waters. And finally, our co-chairs are all small business owners, as well as experts on policy and the PPP. They are here to answer your questions. We'll begin with Business for Responsible Tax Reform's co-chairs, Shondell Newsom, owner of Some New Marketing in Las Vegas, Nevada, Frank Knapp Jr., CEO of the South Carolina Small Business Chamber of Commerce, and Ann Zimmerman, owner of Zimmerman and Company CPAs in Cincinnati and Cleveland, Ohio. They'll share their experience as small business owners and discuss what they'd like to see policymakers focus on to help small businesses. And then we'll open up the floor for discussion. Shondell, take us away.
Thank you, Conan. I appreciate you and appreciate everything that BRTR is doing for our small businesses. Again, my name is Shondell Newsom, and I own a firm in Las Vegas, Some New Marketing, and I am also the chairman of the board for the Urban Chamber of Commerce, Nevada, representing small and diverse companies throughout the Silver State. There are 270,000 small businesses, representing 99% of all businesses in Nevada. We employ 487,000 people, nearly 100,000 of whom work for minority-owned businesses. Yet Nevada had just 8,600 PPP loans approved in the first round. Nevada wasn't the only state that saw very small businesses getting loans. Although the PPP loans were designed to help small businesses, the first round especially skewed toward preferred or established customers of big banks and lenders. Unfortunately, the vast majority of very small businesses have never been among traditional lenders' preferred customer base. As a result of this dynamic, many of those small businesses were left at the back of the line during the first round of PPP loans. That was certainly true for my business. During the first round of PPP, we learned a hard lesson that all small businesses are created equal. That not all small businesses are created equal. My family-owned business started in 2006, is now in its third generation and a recipient of SBA Nevada Family-Owned Business of the Year. We are veteran-owned, minority-owned, and woman-owned, with my daughter succeeding me as the primary owner several years ago. We are a marketing firm with 10 to 15 employees at any given time. As a representative of the chamber, I heard that many smaller firms were not funded because they did not have strong banking relationships and were not prepared. But we were not funded by the PPP in the first round, even though we were prepared. For more than a decade, we've had an outstanding relationship with our small business banker. We keep our financials solid. And as a military family, we were prepared for a disaster, even though this one was unprecedented. We eventually got funded during the second round after Nevada leaders in the House and Senate fought for our smaller firms. Businesses for Responsible Tax Reform released a survey of our national network of small business owners in April, where we asked them if they applied for a PPP loan. With more than 600 small business owners responding, we found that 68% reported applying for a PPP loan before the funding ran dry in the first week. Just 28 reported getting their loan approved. Only 16% of the small business owners who said they have approved for the PPP loan have received the money. There are 30 million small businesses in America. During the first round, just 1.6 million got a PPP loan. And during the second round, which is still ongoing, that number could reach a total of about 3 million. That means a lot of people will be left out in the cold. This process has exposed, yet again, the disparity in access to capital that has been an issue since I started my firm 14 years ago. The SBA and our legislators need to make a priority to improve access to capital for small businesses, focusing on very small and minority-owned firms in particular. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk, and I look forward to hearing from others.
Thank you very much, Shondell. Frank, let's hear from you.
Thank you, Conan, and hello, everyone. As Conan mentioned, I'm Frank Knapp. I am a small business owner myself, and I'm also the president and CEO of the South Carolina Small Business Chamber of Commerce, which I co-founded in the year 2000. I do want to recognize Matt and Heather, who are my board members, two of my board members on the call today. So thank you to them for joining us. In the first round of the PPP loans, only 23,000 of the more than 400,000 small businesses in my state received loans. Now, my personal story shows how these loans were not first come, first served, as the SBA regulations required. My family has a small dog kennel, and in March, all the boarding business stopped and most employees were laid off. We notified our commercial bank of 20 years that we wanted to apply for a loan. But the day before the loan process started, the bank recommended that we apply to an online lender. Neither that online lender nor another bank that we tried helped us. 2 weeks later, our bank told us that they were now ready to process loans, but we found out that they had already been successfully processing loans for other customers. We did get a loan last week, a month after we first tried. In the second round of the PPP funding, there was a $60 billion carve-out for small lenders with hopes that that would serve the smallest and most vulnerable businesses. Some of the early numbers of who got loans this time are encouraging. And we'll have to wait and see, though, how it all shakes out, because the devil is always in the details. It's crucial that our very smallest businesses get help. The vast majority of small businesses have fewer than 20 employees. These are the moms and pops that make up Main Street, but in the aggregate, they employ about half of America. Now, unfortunately, just today, the Washington Post reports on a study of PPP loans and says, quote, "The companies getting shut out are those without established banking connections, those owned by minorities and women, and the ones in the epicenters of the disease's destruction." If we don't get these businesses the money they need to survive, our communities will be forever changed for the worse, and our economy will suffer. Thank you, Conan.
Frank, okay. And Ann, let's hear from you, and then we'll open up the small business.
You'll probably hear me better if I unmute. Sorry about that. Thanks, Conan. I'm Ann Zimmerman, a CPA from Cincinnati, Ohio, employing 6 people right now, and completely buried in the details of the recent Small Business Relief Act. It's pretty much all we've been doing. The country will not recover from this economic crisis if our small businesses do not survive to lead the way back to economic prosperity. That's you. You're going to be our leaders. We need Congress and the administration to help the truly small business that will continue to struggle despite the PPP loans. We need strong leadership, clear communication, and swift execution, not the hallmark of the PPP loans so far. Otherwise, the Main Street businesses that make up the fabric of our communities, salons, construction, professionals, breweries, restaurants, and bookshops, will close and may never come back. But if they're given the proper tools to make it to the other side of this crisis, small businesses will lead the economic recovery. They let us out of the Great Recession, and they can do it again. What we would like to see in the next relief package, and some of what we're advocating for now, includes we need no strings attached grants to truly small businesses. This will allow us to stay open and operational so we can make it to the other side of this crisis and employ as many or more than we did before all this started. Second, Congress must legislate to overrule IRS Notice 2020-32, which in essence made the PPP loans taxable, which was against the intent of Congress. And next, we need to expand the 8-week period for forgiveness of PPP loans to at least 2.5 months, the same period considered for establishing loan size. Absent this change, many small businesses like you are going to be stuck with a loan balance that they have to repay, regardless of whether or not they retain their entire staff. That's sort of an introduction, Conan, to what we as Businesses for Responsible Tax Reform are fighting for. Back to you to start the discussion.
All right. Well, thanks, Ann, and thank you, Frank and Shondell. We're now going to open it up to our small business participants. We really would like to hear from you and the experiences that you are having. If you'd like to speak, please use the raise your hand feature to tell your story and ask us some questions. Again, we want to hear about your experiences during this time, answer any questions that you have. If we can't answer any of your questions, we'll find someone who can and get back to you later. And we also want to definitely hear your suggestions for what the administration, rule makers, and policymakers can do to help Main Street. Once you raise your hand, we'll unmute your microphone so you can have the floor. Please state your name, where you're from, and the name of your business. And in the interest of letting everyone speak who would like to, please keep your comments to a couple of minutes if possible. If you're a member of the media, we welcome your questions as well. Please identify yourself and the media outlet you represent. All right, let's kick it off. All right, hi, Candace. Why don't you start us off?
Hi, everyone. I know this is such a trying time for all of us. I am Candace Combs. I own In Symmetry Spa. I'm in San Francisco. I also own Combs Business Consulting. We're 100% LGBTQ run. So a minority business, and I'm a woman, so double minority on that. I finally got the PPP 2 days ago, and here's what I will tell people waiting. I literally hate tweeted Wells Fargo. I'm not kidding you. I went on there and was like, you have to give me this. And they finally let me out. I was in the first round. I didn't get in the first round. They finally gave it to me 2 days ago. Here's my question. What do I do now? I'm in San Francisco. I own a spa, In Symmetry Spa. We're not going to be up for another month or two. So we don't know what to do with it, right? I think right now our employees are getting paid more on unemployment. So we don't want to take this money, screw over our employees who need the money. We're in the Bay Area. It's very expensive here. But we're just not sure, and no one knows, right? The SBA hasn't given their final anything on this loan. So it's kind of unbelievable that they're willing to give you all this money and go, oh, well, I have no idea. Because for us, we might take it as a loan if it would go longer than 2 years. We might just take it at 1% if it went for 10 years. Or, of course, I would love it to be forgiven, but the rules are so crazy that we just don't know what to do. So if anything, I would love to lobby Congress to A, make it longer for businesses like us, and B, somebody please explain what to do with this. Like, we need clear guidelines, and I don't feel like we have it. Thanks, you guys.
He's shaking his head.
And I think that you can probably field a lot of this in here. I imagine a lot of your clients are experiencing a lot of the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I see some people I know on here that are shaking their head. Hi, Walt.
How you
You
doing?
know the exact same story, couldn't you?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I mean, we were in basically exactly the same position, other than we had a long relationship with a bank that did work out for us and got a loan pretty much right away. Ann and I had many conversations about how do we use the loan and what the timing was set up to be for the loan. And every time we kept coming back to, it is an 8-week period that begins the minute the money hits your bank account. And unfortunately, from everything we know, there's no give on that at this point. And when you understand that a vast majority of the country and a lot of the businesses that got these loans are still on close down, lockdown mode, as are we can bring our people back onto the payroll, and for some capacities, say like marketing and sales, there might be some things to do. But I have a manufacturing operation with about 40 factory employees that cannot come into the factory, and I can't get any value out of them at all right now. My government, my state continues to say it could be opening for some of us in the next couple of weeks, but every week that goes by, I'm 2 weeks into my 8-week period right now, and I've gotten virtually nothing out of it. And my employees, my factory employees, just like was stated before, they're on unemployment insurance, and they're doing better than if I bring them back and put them back on payroll. So
that's something we're hearing over and over and over. And as some of you know, yesterday I had the honor of being on a roundtable with Speaker Nancy Pelosi and speaking directly with her. And I have to say, I'm optimistic that we're going to see these rules change. One thing that happened yesterday was they gave more leeway to the big companies that are going to return their loans. They gave them an extra week. They had given them till May 7th to return the loan if they really shouldn't have, with all the shaming for the big companies taking the money. And so they gave them an extra week as of yesterday, which just appalls me. Not that I don't want the money back, but they're bending the rules for the big companies. They darn well better bend the rules or change the rules for us to make it easier. And I think they're under enough pressure now that they will. Even Rubio is tweeting and sounding like he wants to loosen this all up, because I think there's just a bunch of things they have to change. They have to start that 8 weeks when you open your doors. I think that's going to be one thing you see. I can't promise this. We're advocating hard for it, and I think it's going to happen. So they have to change their 8 weeks until that, to start the day you open your doors. They have to make that 8 weeks longer. So if it's just you as a self-employed person, you can get full forgiveness for the loan. They have to take some sort of grants. One of the things I've heard is that they'll take grants up to a certain dollar amount and just write them off. There's going to be a form. We're just going to sign it, and they're gone. And also I've heard on that call too, something around maybe 2025, anywhere from 10 to 15 employees, or 10 to 25, that they consider little businesses, that they should be able to keep the PPP loan. It's not going to hurt your unemployment if you're taking unemployment also. I mean, there's just so many things. All I can say is we're fighting for it. And if you want to help us fight for it, follow up after this, because voices matter. They really matter. And that's one thing that Speaker Pelosi said over and over yesterday. She said, know your power as small business owners. Speaking up is unbelievable. We have someone else on here. I hope I didn't put you on the spot, but I'd like to turn to Mike Bray. Hey, and you need it for your inventory, right? You can't spend it all on people because of yours. And I think that's something else we're fighting for. And you can also tell us that it matters when you speak up, can't you?
Sure. Well, I mean, I was on the call yesterday, and I know that Shondell and Frank Knapp and others were. You know, Ann, Walt, and I have been have had the great fortune to work with Nancy Pelosi's office for, I think, probably close to a decade now directly. And we have just had, when small businesses band together, we have just had over the years tremendous results when small business owners individually and as a group speak out on particular issues. I mean, the
Hey,
affordable.
thank you, Mike. Can you introduce yourself for everyone else on the phone?
I'm sorry. My name is Mike Bray. I'm the president of Bray Corp, or mostly known in the Washington area for operating a chain of toy and hobby stores called Hobbyworks. We have a manufacturing operation overseas called Wingcoat. And in our retail stores, which are currently closed in the state of Maryland, we employ 22 to 25 people at any given time. We've closed a couple stores, but we're still in that 25 employee range. And I've been in business for a long time, as you can see by lack of hair. So anyway, we've had great success over the years interacting as small business people, individually and collectively, on a variety of issues. Ann's exactly right. They love to hear from real people, and those voices carry weight, whether you're in front of a Republican member, a Democratic member, it doesn't matter. Once they get a small business in front of them and who can explain, you know, these guys get policy information and ideas from their staff. I mean, we've learned over the years, Ann and Walt and I, that Washington, D.C. is really run by people between the ages of about 25 and 35. And so anytime you can get in front of a member or their staff and articulate sort of specific reasons why you need something changed and specific things that you'd like to see, they really take that to heart, all of them. So we've had great luck with that. Like Walt, I'm in the same position. We got our PPP loan about a week after Walt did, so I think we're coming up on our 2 weeks here. And we're in the same position. Maryland is still, we have a great governor, Hogan, who's a moderate Republican, has just been terrific. And he's following the science, but we're still a little bit behind a lot of other states. We're not open yet. And I think part of the problem with the PPP was when it was originally conceived, the idea was to pay people through their businesses instead of having them go on unemployment. But then it took so long for everything to happen. Your employees have to do something, you know, and so we're in the same position. We need the money for inventory. We need the money for our rent. I mean, I got $70,000. My $20,000 is 1 month's rent. So for me, it's going to be a grant unless the rules change significantly. I mean, it's going to be a loan unless the rules change significantly, and I don't need more debt.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Let's hear from, I see you signed in as KP's newest iPad with your hand up. Could you?
I'm Karen Perlmutter. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. And my husband and I are self-employed. We own an antiques business. And we got shut down immediately. And we've been in business for 30 years, started in Maryland, by the way, and relocated to Charleston 4 years ago. So when this happened, we don't have any other employees. So I was right on the bandwagon applying for the PPP, got knocked out on the first round, ended up getting the money today, but all $4,700 of it doesn't do that much. The problem is with small businesses like us, we pay ourselves salary. Therefore, we don't pay ourselves that much because the money gets plowed back into the business and you have debt and everything else. And naturally, I'm with Wells Fargo also, which is just the worst. And when I spoke to them, they even knew before the PPP was coming, I wanted a loan. I banked with them for 30 years. They did absolutely nothing. I have no idea if I just got this money because I called my congressman 3 times, just upset, and kept telling them I'm upset. So, but the meantime, the PPP money is really employee oriented. It doesn't talk anything about inventory, about our rents. So we're still having to pay rent to house our inventory. It's for a closed shop where no money's coming in. So I'm not quite sure that that was the solution for all small businesses. To make it simply about employees doesn't take care of all of our, the overhead necessary to run a business.
And I think they're starting to realize that. Is it Karen?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Karen, thanks. I think they're starting to realize that they need to expand this. They know that coming out of the Great Recession, small business, which is us, created 2/3 of the new jobs. And they know they need us alive when we come out of this. It's not just to be nice or altruistic to us. It's for the economy. And they're starting to see that. I know, Carrie, you put a comment out that we need longer than the 8 weeks. Absolutely. And I did hear Speaker Pelosi mention yesterday the possibility of giving us all of 2020 to spend it, which I think is what's needed. And I think it's great calling your Congress people, but generally you're just going to get staff and they're going to write down. So it's better than nothing. It's definitely better than nothing. But if you can link up like with us or another small business group, and we're always looking for people, we can help get your voices heard too through letters to the editor and news releases and those sort of things, which go a long way past just dialing your representative's office.
Well, one other thing that my husband had mentioned.
Conan will work with you on that if you're interested.
Okay, but can I ask one more thing?
Sure.
We had it. No, am I still there?
Yeah, you're still on.
Because we're self-employed, we self-fund our IRAs, and if we could at least tap into the money that is in an IRA without being penalized, and we're not of the age to take the money out without paying 50% back in taxes, at least we could then keep ourselves alive, even if it's with our own money.
Well, and there are some flexibility in that, you know, that came out in one of the first acts. So I can go into that with more detail with you later if you'd like. But there are
Good
some.
morning. Good morning, if I may.
Yeah.
This is Carlos Olorzano.
Yeah.
I'm the CEO of the Hispanic Chambers of Commerce in San Francisco. And I just wanted to express thank you very much for being invited to this. I think it's important that we have a really good conversation across the country in what is affecting us. I don't want to go into too much of my issues because we had Candace Combs, which explain a lot of what happened in San Francisco with us. But some of the issues that we have more important to us are not with the loans in a sense, but also with the unemployment. We have a lot of small business. I am a small business owner also. I've been in business for probably 35 years. I don't have any employees anymore. In the last 9 years, I've been working as on my own, but I contract a lot of my former employees to do the projects as I get it. Now, a couple of things on that has been the individual contractor. We have no way pretty much to get unemployment. We have no way to qualify for more of the PPP, the programs and the payroll loans. The other part that we have is 70% of our membership is composed of service providers in a sense that are business consulting, immigration consulting, tax consulting. So it makes it hard for us to get into how do we work on that. The other part that it has employment, that has employees, are torn between finally getting through some of the banks to get loans, and since they were recommended, apply for the disadvantage, apply for the PP, apply for this. So they had 2 or 3 loans, and now they're getting different responses. One bank saying we need to have your payroll and your work comps and blah blah. The other bank says, you know, we need to 1099. So it's a confusion on how they work with that. So it's making really hard. And on top of that now is that the extension with the unemployment. Do I call my employees back, which knowing that they're going to make way less money than what they're getting at this point right now, and they need to catch up. So there is a lot of confusion on that. We need to get more or less all of us united in the same page, talk to Congress people. And, you know, I was in the call with Pelosi yesterday also, you know, but there's no clarity. We need to have some clarity. How are we going to work out? It's to the point that I became SBDC certified, so that way I can help on the loan packages. But again, you know, there is no clarity on what the government is doing and how do we respond to protect our employees and to protect ourselves. Thank you.
Hey, Conan.
All right. Thank you for sharing, Carlos. Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
Conan, I think what we're going to need, because I know there's a lot of questions that Ann can't answer them all in this time period. We might need to go back through this whole video and actually compile those questions that the people have and send out an email with trying to address them all. So Ann, I hate to dump that on you, but you know, we're gonna need to do it. Hey, could we do this for me? I got another South Carolinian here on the call. Carrie, can you speak a little bit? That's you, Carrie.
Hey.
Okay. Hi. The other thing I wanted to say was that I also applied for the small business loan, the EIDL, and there has been such a lack of communication because that would be something that could help a small business that doesn't have employees, you know.
Right.
At least that was what I was under the understanding.
Right. And can we? I actually want Carrie Morey, the other the other South Carolinian with me. Carrie, the other Carrie Morey. Can you talk?
Hey, my name is Carrie Morey. I am the owner of Callie's Hot Little Biscuit here in Charleston, South Carolina. But we also have a location in Atlanta and Charlotte. And we were fortunate enough to get the PPP loan approved on the second round. We have a great relationship with a local bank, and we missed the first one and then actually ended up going to another local bank and got it within 48 hours. So we certainly are very grateful for that. You never want to look a gift horse in the mouth, but you know, just like everything in life, getting money doesn't solve everyone's problems. And so, you know, I'm very cautious of using this money, but that at the same time feeling like we need to hurry up and use it because for fear that it might, you know, we might get to the June 30th deadline. So I'm hopeful and confident that things will change with these rules, especially as often as they continue to change now. Just every night, I feel like every day you wake up and there's a new addendum to how to use the money. And, you know, for us, I think that it's going to take months. Even, you know, in Charleston, they've now opened restaurants for outdoor dining. My restaurant is way too small for that. So these things don't apply to us. But you know, even if tomorrow everything were fine and we were to go back to business as usual, it's going to take months for us to get customers to come in the door. Tourism is a big issue for us, and that's where a lot of our customers come from. And I just think that there's so many things that haven't been thought of, and we need to be very thoughtful about how we spend this money and push really hard to get it extended. I would like to see it extended through the end of the year, because for me, I don't see things getting back to normal at the earliest before fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think those are all great suggestions. And I want to follow up with Karen or Carrion who spoke, just to tell you, you need to look into it. You can touch your retirement without penalty or tax. Now, there are ways to do that in 2020. You can hit even an IRA up to $100,000 and either pay the tax over 3 years with no 10% penalty, or repay it within 3 years and have no tax. That was part of the very first relief acts. So you want to look at that again.
Shondell, I think that you have someone that you wanted to introduce to talk.
Yes, Maisha Williams with MYS out in Las Vegas had a comment and a question. So Maisha, you should be unmuted now.
Thank you, Shondell. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Fantastic. Hello, everyone. As Shondell mentioned, a small business owner in Nevada, MYS Project Management. We're professional services. We are grateful that there has been opportunities for us to get access to capital through these programs. But when people offer us a congratulations, hesitant to accept that, because it is in fact a loan for both programs, the EIDL and the PPP, and not quite knowing what are going to be the opportunities that come following receiving the money is where we get a little bit worried. So what we wanted to bring to this group is to ask for assistance in talking to our legislative representatives about creating opportunities in the future to pay back money. So yes, it's gonna potentially help us make it through Sure, there's still a lot of things to address, but say we all make it through fine and we're ready to open up, we're going to need help from our legislators to make sure that those opportunities are available to us. I think having some type of set aside or some kind of bounce back initiative that would allow us to partake in the economy and make sure that folks are thinking of us as contracts are being handed out is going to be really important to our recovery. So that's the point that I'd like to add is I don't want to get too hyper focused on just today, but looking into tomorrow and handling the debt that is absolutely coming our way and making sure that we have a way to sustain after the pandemic has calmed. Thank you.
And I don't know if you're aware, but the EIDL did get more money, but it's reopening, only going to agriculture for some reason, I read. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. I thought they were already bailed out once, but somebody made that decision this week.
Staying in Nevada, Tonda, would you like to speak?
Yes. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Hi, my name is Tonda Benj. I'm the founder and owner of a customized dog nanny service here in Reno, Nevada. We've been in business almost 4 years. I fluctuate a bit between 7 and 11 employees. At the moment, I have 9. I don't have any questions about what I would do with the PPP. You know, my idea was to receive these funds and distribute them amongst my team, you know, based on what they would normally get, because our workload obviously has dropped, so my team aren't working anymore. I haven't officially laid off anybody, but I have given them formal leave of absence, which we agreed that would be the best option for them. So I have a couple of questions. I have a fantastic relationship with my bank. It's a credit union that I've had a savings account with since I was a teenager, and that was a very long time ago. And now I have, you know, I still have a personal account with them and my business account with them. So I applied for the PPP through my credit union. I applied on the 14th of April. So still when the first round was going through, we received some communication back from them, but we were never approved for that. Now that the second round is going through, there's still some communication from them, but we still have not been approved, so I still have no funds. And therefore I'm not able to pay my staff and just keep them on the books, you know, keep money flowing through to them. One thing that confuses me a little bit is that when the administration decided to do this individual tax relief and everybody got a $1,200 check and the most vulnerable was going to get those checks first, they basically went back and looked at 2018 or 2019 taxes and made those decisions. So I guess my question is, does anybody know why that sort of thing wasn't taken into account or wasn't part of the consideration process when divvying out the PPP money? And what I mean by that is, you know, looking at the most vulnerable businesses, the micro businesses first. And Shondell, I see you nodding your head, so you've probably had the same thought. So I don't know why or how that didn't play into account, because I would consider myself a micro business or a small business. We do less than 500,000 a year. But I have, you know, right now I have 9 employees who are struggling to pay their own rent, you know, to live. So the whole idea is to put money back into the economy and keep people able to put food on their table and pay their rent. And that just, it doesn't seem to be happening. So yeah, if anybody can figure out why those things weren't taken into consideration, or maybe raise those questions to the right legislators, and, you know.
Conan, if you don't mind, I'll give you some, and thank you again, Reno, Nevada, right on. You know, one of the things I heard this morning with Representative Schumer was that was an oversight on their part. Like, and it was their intent first. At first, it was their intent that money was supposed to come to the small businesses. But once again, the administration seems like they hijacked the whole plan every time, ever since I've been in business. Every time there's something intended for the smaller and minority businesses or the smaller micro businesses, it's always hijacked somehow by the larger businesses. So he said on NBC today, he said that was an oversight on their part. That's why they tried to catch it on the second part. And they did have some set aside dollars that went to smaller community banks, credit unions. What's the other one? And it's called CDFIs. And they were making sure that there were set aside dollars that were going to the smaller firms. And in the future, that's what we were asking. We're asking that when they think of recovery, they think of the smaller firms first. Because just like Ann said, we were the ones that helped them recover from the last recession, but we become an oversight real quick when greed comes in, right? When greed happens, everybody all of a sudden forgets about morals, forget about the Pledge of Allegiance, forget about all that stuff. They start going after, you know, it's like the survival of the fittest, right? So firms like yours, who you're trying your best to help your employees, you're looking them in the eye, I'm going to take care of you, we get stuck. So I'll tell you, our Nevada legislators are all over this. And just like Ann said, I need you at the table. I need you to talk to all of those legislators when they come through your, or just get a hold of us after this, and let's fight this, because they're very aware of what happened.
Okay.
Conan?
Great. So everyone, we have a number of business owners who want to share their stories. So let's hear from a few folks, and then we can jump in with our comments after that. And then we definitely want to hear from all of you. So we will get to you right now. All right. Lil Mama Sweets, you're up. I see you in the kitchen in there.
Yes, I'm definitely working today. I have my family and I, we have two small businesses. One is a trucking company, and one is a cottage bakery, which is what you see me in my kitchen doing right now. My question is, why hasn't the bridge loans been put out there as a way to get money in between getting the EIDL money? Because it's on the small business website. However, when I talk to my bank, I'm with Wells Fargo at the moment, you know, so don't shoot me. But when I talked to, you know, a banker who I have a very good relationship with at Wells Fargo, she was clueless as to what I was talking about. You know, anything other than the PPP, they don't know anything about. So it makes it difficult to find information and get, you know, what we need, because we know the economic disaster loan is going to take a while because it's government. I retired from the government this past August, so I know they take forever to do anything. So we know that's going to take a while. However, you know, the bridge loan is supposed to take care of you for a small period of time until the EIDL, you know, comes through for you. How do we get, you know, that kind of money out there? And then two, for somebody like me that has I would say a micro small business, because it's just me and my son working in my bakery, you know, we don't qualify for the PPP because we don't have any paychecks. Really, everything we've done goes directly back into the business. So I couldn't even apply for that. So how would something like that help me?
Great questions. All right. Well, let's hear from a couple more, and then we can see if Anne Frank and Shondell can answer some of the questions that have come up. Thank you. Travis Bolt, you've been waiting patiently with your hand up there, so go ahead.
Thanks for your time, Conan. Yeah, my name's Travis Bolt. I run a home care agency in Houston, Texas. I'm also a Democrat running for state legislature, so I really appreciate advocacy teams, because as an outed Democrat in Texas, my lawmakers no longer take my calls. We were able to successfully apply for the PPP loan, and we got it on the first round, which I think both we have good relationships with our bank, and we're essential workers who we've never shut down. So we work by providing care for disabled seniors, and it was really worrisome whether our people would continue to do the high risk work that they're in. So we've actually been able to, with the PPP loan, offer a 20% bonus to anybody working throughout the course of this, which has been hugely helpful. And we are, because of the way our business is structured, 70% of our cost structure is labor anyway. So very easy. It's going to be very easy for us to dump the loan directly into the pockets of my employees. My major concern is the amount of these loans that are going to non-small businesses, to these big corporations who are getting $10 million payouts on this. And when 89% of small businesses are below 20 employees, I don't understand why there isn't a cap somewhere around that. And I've got 75 employees in my business, but you know, for a lot of folks who have 10, 20, 30 employees in their business, you give them a $100,000 check and that's months worth of payroll that they can cover. Whereas if you give the $100,000 check to a mega corporation, you know, sure, they'll still apply for it. They'll still take it and put it somewhere, but it's not really, you know, a motivational factor for, are you staying in business? Are you able to keep your doors open? So it seems to me that putting some kind of cap or threshold well below the 500 employee mark where it's at right now, and there's even exemptions for companies using above 500 employees. So if there were some threshold, you know, well below that 100, 200 employees, or however much money that we could throw at a small business, it seems like that would help prioritize, you know, the mom and pop shops who will really put this to use. And that's going to be the difference between them staying in business or folding versus giving it to Shake Shack or Neiman Marcus or whoever who's just going to like file it on a line somewhere way down a balance sheet. But while y'all are considering what to advocate for in the next round, I do think that a cap on some level would help prioritize this towards small businesses as opposed to mega corporations. Absolutely, great point.
And I know Ann has been talking and working on some ideas in that field as well. All right, Dontrell Lawson, you're also an essential business down in Florida, so why don't you go ahead and share your story?
Good afternoon and good morning to everyone. I have a unique perspective, being that I have a janitorial. Sorry. I have a janitorial company, and we never stop working.
Dontrell, let's see if you can fix the feedback there, and we'll come right back to you.
Phone and his computer on, so he needs to turn the audio off, either his phone or his computer.
Yeah. In the meantime, Jenny in Lake Tahoe. Is that Jenny or Janae? I see you have your hand up.
I'm Janae.
Hi, Janae.
You can call me Jenny if it's acceptable, but I usually go by Janae. Yeah, I'm up here in Lake Tahoe, and I think I bring an interesting or different perspective. I live in a tourism-driven community. So normally, from the months of like March, April, May, this is our shoulder season. It's usually fairly quiet, and we kind of supplement with visitors coming up from the Bay Area, from LA, even from Reno and Vegas. But we are now entering into our summer season. And what we're finding is that our visitorship is significantly decreasing. And we have our borders, quote unquote, closed right now. We're encouraging people not to come to Tahoe. We're canceling a lot of big events during which I would make a ton of money. And my summer month is my busiest season. My summer months are my busiest season. And so I did get a $1,000 deposit magically in my bank account this week with, of course, no email or indication of what to do with that money. It is the EIDL. But I'm a solopreneur. So I'm trying to figure out, how am I going to survive June, July, August, and September without visitors coming to town? And so as I think about the financial support that I need as a small business owner, I'm thinking longitudinally, and I'm thinking, what's this going to look like in October? when I hit my next shoulder season. And, you know, when the virus returns and we continue to see this drop, and being in a community that survives on visitors, on tourism, formerly on gambling as well, there's a lot of questions in my mind. And so it's great to have this financial support right now, but I also think discussions need to be had about how does this look in the future? How does this look for our small rural communities where we also haven't yet really been hit by the virus yet? All the cities have been hit, and you know, everything travels into the rural communities later. And so we're just waiting to see that impact.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Hey, can I just comment on that real quick?
Please.
So Janae, and I got that right, Janae, you know, one of the things that's happening is Chris Sanchez with the Governor's Office of Economic Development in Nevada is very, very concerned about comments that you just made. And one of the reasons why it's real important for people to understand, everybody on this call understand, like, tourism is a major part of the state of Nevada, but also gaming and hospitality also ties into our smaller businesses, because over the years, we have been encouraging our smaller businesses to do business with our larger entities. So that has happened for a lot of small businesses. So once those casinos, the MGMs, the Caesars Entertainments, the properties up in Tahoe and Reno have shut down, that had a great impact on our smaller firms like Janae's, because we were encouraged a lot to do business with those. And so when that dried up, it dried up a lot of our businesses. So I want to give you guys sort of that perspective. But Janae, we are working closely with the business and industry in Nevada, GOED, the Governor's Office of Economic Development, and the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance. All of us are working hard to make sure like that businesses like yours are going to recover a lot sooner. So we had great conversations, but we have some action plans to it too.
I look forward to hearing them.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Dontrell, I think you have your technical issues worked out. You want to go ahead?
Yes. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Dontrell Lawson. I run Deposit Cleaning Services. We are a janitorial company here in Florida. I bring a unique perspective, just like Travis said. We never stopped working. Early on, before the COVID actually became a pandemic, we received a letter from the Department of Homeland Security deeming us as an essential service provider, being that we're contractors through them, through FEMA, through the CDC, et cetera. So we never stopped working. And we don't have, 500 employees. We have about 40 employees throughout our organization. We didn't get funding the first time around, and we met all the qualifications. We just got our PPP a week ago today. And mysteriously, we qualified for the EIDL loan, so it appeared as well. My concern is for the companies that are still deemed essential and have to be working. Janitorial industry has been hit hard because the same things that people are hoarding up, we require those to do our jobs, and we're getting price gouged out of the, we're getting hit hard. Sanitizer that cost us $28 is now costing us $96. Gloves that were $3 a box are now costing $6 a box. So my concern is, even though that this PPP will help us on the employee tip, a lot of that is going to cover, inventory stuff, the margins that we have, for the things that we need, that we didn't expect to endure. Disinfectant is at a premium now, and some of the same places that we order from, the national stockpile, we're getting bumped for organizations that are deemed more essential than us because they have a need, like medical facilities, and we're being asked to go out and do COVID cleans, and we're having to, basically fight for the proper PPEs to go in and do things like that. So I think as from an advocacy standpoint, we should really lobby for, our industry, the janitorial industry, because we're just on the front line, just like everyone else, protecting people as they're going into these restaurants, hotels, you name it. The economy is eventually going to open up, and you're going to have to rely on a cleaning service to, help get the facility prepared for the staff and everyone else to come in. So I think there should be a level of advocacy for the janitorial industry to not be deemed second rate. And I find it ironic that the same people that say, the $15 an hour people, don't deserve it, but we in the industry and the others are the ones that are being depended on right now to keep everyone afloat.
Yeah, that's a powerful story. I want to acknowledge that we have reached the hour that we're at, but we still have a number of people with their hands up. Those of us who can would love to stay on and listen to everyone. So if any of you do have to jump, just realize that we will be reaching out. Also, if you want to continue to be involved with businesses for responsible tax reform, you'll be hearing from us about how you can do that. But let's keep going. Frank, and do you want to respond to any of the comments that you've heard before we ask?
Well, yeah, Conan, thank you. And I think it's important, after hearing all the frustration, all the good questions that everybody has had, all the confusion that is out there, none of this really had to happen. Congress did pass something, and they made it the lenders were going to make decisions, but we all knew what lenders do. They're going to take care of their best clients, the preferred clients, as Shondell calls them. That's capitalism. It's almost like there's nobody at the SBA, in the Trump administration, at the SBA or at the Department of Treasury, who's ever run a small business. And the questions that we all could have come up with before they implemented it, before they made the decisions, before they made the rules, a lot of those still have never been answered. But I bet we could take 5 of us on this call, and we would have come up with those questions before the rules were made. So this is a crisis of confusion and inadequacy that did not need to happen. And Congress may have set the game that could have been different, but it was simply not put into effect, and the rules were not made. And I really do blame the Trump administration, the SBA, and the Treasury, Department of Treasury, for doing something where they could have precluded those publicly funded companies, the ones that are have stockholders, and the Shake Shacks and everybody else. They could have been precluded from joining. In fact, they're trying now, as Ann's pointed out, to give them an out so they can give the money back. They don't have to face any type of prosecution or investigation. They couldn't have figured this out beforehand. All they've done is delayed the money, more money, to go to true small businesses like you all who are represented here. I just wanted to make that point. This did not have to happen the way it is.
And Frank, not only did it not have to happen, but my SBA director told us that they were specifically not looking to work with publicly traded and larger companies. They were trying to get it to us. So they talked about it, and they must have discussed it on an SBA call somewhere, but they failed to execute that.
Lalitha, I see you have your hand up. Would you like to talk? Are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks for taking
introduce yourself in your business.
Thanks for taking my call or my opinion. Mine is a very small business. I mean, we are wholesale traders, and I'm based in Colorado. And see, it is like a startup, and we started just last August 2019. My thing is, like, I applied for the EIDL and the PPP, and because it's like a startup, I mean, I'm the only employee or 2 employees. We have myself and another person, and we didn't pay ourselves anything. Like, we just kept working. We wanted to get contracts. So I'm like the marketing director, and I'm also the owner. I have all the SBE, the ACDB, the women-owned business, all these certifications and stuff. So we got a contract on March 10th or March 12th. Then due to COVID-19, on March 30th, they retracted it. They said, we cannot give you the contract because of these situations. And so I applied for the PPP loan, and they have denied it. They said, you have not paid yourself or your employee like all these months, like since August, and so we cannot give you any loan. And even the EIDL, I don't know, I have not gotten it. Like somebody mentioned, like $1,000, $2,000, or whatever, the disaster grant. Even that I have not yet received. So I would really, like from the advocacy point, like, I mean, I would like the Congress like to change their or that policy, like, you know, like for startup businesses, like, see, because I'm a startup, I didn't want to pay myself first. Like, I mean, from where will I pay myself? First, I'm trying to market, get contracts. And I was really happy that I got a 250,000 value contract. And within like a week, like, I mean, they just retracted it. So, but I'm denied the loan or any support. And I was very upset yesterday. And you know, why, like, I'm like really a very small business, but why there is no support? We do like all eco-friendly products, like, you know, stainless steel, biodegradable products to businesses like schools, hospitals, you know, all that stuff. So I would really like to maybe that's what join your group or you know, to advocate like any startups like this, even small mic like this, we are affected, but we are not getting any loans or like, you know, any kind of support. It would be really good if we get something, you know, to at least you know, again I have to starting from scratch, right? It's like when I lost that contract, it was like a big blow for me. But I told them, the bank, that I would give them or produce even the emails or the proof of the contract and see, because of COVID-19, I've been affected. So please grant me the loan. But they have said that you will not get because you have not paid yourself anything. So what do you all think? Or did anybody else face this situation?
Well, it depends on the type of entity you are. You know, if you're a corporation or a sole proprietor.
LLC.
So you're taxed as a partnership?
Yes, like a partnership, like, yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of had to have made some money last year to qualify if you're a partnership, but and including, so they would include profits and guaranteed payments made out to the partners. But if you were not profitable at all last year and you're a partnership with no employees, none of these loans are going to really help you out right now. I don't know of any that they're working on that will help you. Now, if they do grants to really small businesses, possibly, and supposedly their SBA is working on guidance for what if you didn't make money last year but you do this year. Then, you know, except for COVID, then maybe there's a way to do it, but I wish I had better news. I just don't. As Frank said, the SBA and the administration have had the power to issue all this guidance and decide what direction this should go. So we got a bipartisan bill out of Congress, which is a miracle in itself. And they seem to all be pulling in the same direction. And then once we started seeing the guidance trickle out, you know, so many of you already have your loans and you don't know what to do. I mean, I have one friend and client who is a salon owner herself, and she's trying to get unemployment, even though she's self-employed, and the new laws allowing that. I see she's on here. Hi, Stephanie. And she applied, and we finally got her a small PPP, even though she has no employees, because they came out with the guidance to use your 19 Schedule C. But now we have no idea whether she can take both or if the PPP will hurt her unemployment. And we aren't sure what to do, whether she should even take it. We're thinking right now you take it and assume it's a loan and not repaid. But everybody's facing these, and we need this administration to step it up and give small businesses these answers.
This is a real interesting situation. I mean, the damper that this puts on entrepreneurship is going to be a serious one.
Exactly.
And not only for folks in your situation, but I think for a lot of people who are reopening, it's going to be a lot like opening a new business again. There's going to be the expenses of hiring, of advertising, of marketing, of stocking up the stores, all of that. So, I think there's going to be a real need for, patient, responsible, and well-priced capital for small business owners, which, banks aren't always lending to small business owners in the best of times. And if we don't want to, kill entrepreneurship, they're going to have to think about how, what their role is in encouraging folks like you to keep going, right? I can't imagine starting a business right as this struck. That must be a really hard situation to be in. All right, Matt Foster, I see you've been waiting patiently for a long time, so go ahead.
Hey guys, Matt Foster from Greenville, South Carolina. I own a property management company called Carolina Moves. We were fortunate enough to get the PPP in the first round, just thanks to a really good banking relationship. And then I just got the EDL offer this morning, actually. A lot less than expected. I had heard that was going to be about 50% of your 2019 gross minus your cost of goods sold. It was about 10% of that number. So a lot less. Maybe they're just trying to spread the love a little bit further just due to the inadequate funding on the EDL end. Because I understand there's only, I think, $60 billion approved for that, and many more that need funding in that program as well. But I also wanted to bring everyone's attention to support for landlords and tenants themselves. So, landlords are struggling right now with being able to collect rent. We're seeing a huge impact on the commercial side of our business, with only 55% of our tenants paying rent last month. It's going to probably be worse this month, particularly with retail services like hair salons and restaurants. So kind of keeping that in mind. On our residential side, we did have 96% of the tenants pay in April. So I do believe the stimulus checks assisted in that manner, as well as the unemployment boost. But what's next? We have a lot of renters that haven't been able to pay this month. And how's the support going to continue? And fortunately, some lenders are being a little flexible for the landlords, giving them maybe a 2-month deferral, but that's not going to be long enough, and they're going to still have to pay it back. So hopefully there can be some kind of legislation coming through the pipeline to help support landlords to be able to kind of fund the gap there, as well as tenants that are struggling to be able to pay rent on a residential basis.
Well, thank you. That is an important perspective. Eclipse Theaters, I think you are the last person in the queue. If you are there, we'd love to hear from you as well.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for taking the time to coordinate the call. My name is Nick Steele. I'm the owner of Eclipse Theaters. It's a luxury entertainment complex here in Las Vegas. It's been super informative to hear all the different perspectives and to hear the different stories from the different small business owners. I'm just going to touch on a couple of different things that I took notes on. Travis just mentioned, I actually own several real estate properties as well, and so I've been concerned about rental payments and kind of if there's any relief packages. I think this morning Houston just announced that they have a $15 million relief package going towards renters. So I'm going to start looking at that, and that may be something that kind of filters through some other cities, and maybe something for you to look at as well. I believe they received the federal aid, and they're passing that through to renters only for the specific purpose of paying landlords. So hopefully that's something that happens in other cities as well. Matt Foster mentioned something about different ways of allocating funds based on something other than employees, and something that I remember from my days in New York, which I haven't heard in any kind of discussions, is maybe an allocation system based on revenues as opposed to employees. So if the government looked at everyone's business tax returns and spliced it up, they can allocate those at least funding targets based on like a pro rata basis. So if 50% of tax revenues were for businesses that made $5 million or more, and 25% were for businesses that made under 500,000, then the funding that actually goes out can be on a pro rata basis as well. So that at least businesses that are looking for funding are not competing with the much larger businesses. Because sometimes having the number of employees, there are loopholes that you can jump through, and we saw that with franchises. One of the things that I wanted to kind of mention, just to put on people's radar, is that, and I think it's been mentioned over and over, is that while there's a lot of concern regarding the PPP, I think there's a lot of similar issues with the EIDL, and the EIDL really is a much larger paycheck for most businesses. For mine, for example, our monthly payroll, which is the determinant for the PPP loan, 2.5 times that really equates to about 15% of the amount that we would be applying for in the EIDL. And so really changing the application process and increasing the communication for the EIDL program is something that probably is even more impactful than the PPP. And my specific case, I applied on March 17th for the EIDL program, and to date, have not received any substantial contact, and only after reaching out to different members of Congress did I receive a call from the SBA 2 days ago, but still with no information regarding the specific application. And so it's pretty frustrating to go through this process. But just a couple of things that I wanted to mention and to highlight my own story.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask you, on the EIDL, when the SBA called you, did they talk amounts at all? Because we are hearing that, like I think Matt said, that they've really limited what they're giving compared to what they first started out, just because of the demand, and people aren't getting near what they'd hoped.
Yeah, so no specific amounts were discussed for my particular application, but the individual did communicate that I believe there's now a cap on EIDL, or at least I'm not sure if it's formal, but there's a cap of 500,000 on the EIDL, whereas before it was $2 million. And so that's certainly, you can tell that that funds are a little bit less available than they were before. And so that's certainly probably going to filter down to all the remaining applications.
Yeah, I'm not hearing anybody getting even that amount. Mike Bray, you were one of the very first to ever apply for the EIDL, if I recall. Did you ever get it? Can somebody unmute Mike Bray? There we go.
No, we have not only have we not gotten it, but we have heard absolutely nothing. And for a lot of retail and inventory-based businesses, a $500,000 cap for any of us who are of any significant size, that could be a problem. Because the big issue, and we talked about this in an offline, I believe, briefly, Ann, that getting the PPP and the other money that is going to get us through this immediate issue, this is terrific. And as somebody else mentioned, it's mostly focused on our employees, which is also great. I want to take care of my guys as much as anybody. But if you're a business, if you're a retail business, if you're a retail support business, if you're a manufacturer like Walt is, a big issue is going to be getting your business back up and running and keeping it running through what we expect to be kind of repeated ups and downs of this thing, not just through the summer, but in the critical fourth quarter and first quarters of 2021. And that's going to require access to capital in a way that many banks likely are going to be uncomfortable with, even those of us who have long-standing good relationships with local banks who were able to get us through the PPP in the first time. And so somebody like myself, the PPP was great to help my guys. I'm still waiting for information, to hear about my EIDL. And if somebody calls me back and says, here's $100,000, well, that's almost as useless to me in the context of our revenues as $70,000 of PPP money. If you, in terms of being able to operate my business, I'm not saying that $70,000 of PPP money is useless because it helps me take care of my guys in the moment. But in the context of my rents being $20,000 a month and my G&A being $150,000 a month, these are little numbers. They're band-aids. So that news about the EIDL concerns me. In fact, and just before you mentioned it, I was quickly trying to text you a message saying, hey, we need to talk to somebody about this. Those numbers need to be bigger. And in fact, that's what I wanted to get across to Pelosi's office last week.
And as I said, there was a notice this week that I haven't seen a lot on, but that IDLs are going to be limited to agriculture. I don't know where in the world that's going, and if it's going to be the past ones that already applied or just new applications or what.
Yeah, and that's very concerning because, again, and I agree with everything that was said. And thank you again, Nick. You have a wonderful establishment in Las Vegas. But the idle is a big concern because even as I mentioned before, a lot of our businesses is going to take time, especially if we have private contracts with the casinos and gaming operators, as well as government contracts, because we set up our business in a way where we have a good mix of government contracts, private larger contracts, and some smaller businesses. And unfortunately, our government contracts have been delayed. So now we're waiting for them, and they said, well, we're not suspending the contract, but we're going to we're not deleting the contract, but we're going to delay it because now, because of the situation was going on with COVID-19. So I agree that it's going to take a longer time to recover, as well as the idle money is definitely just as important, if not more important than the PPP, and the amount that will help us to get back to where we were or help us to get ahead is extremely important. So they can't give us a drop in the bucket and say, and just for headline's sake, say we gave out X amount of $1 million. And I brought that to our SBA director and to our legislators already.
That's a great point that we need to stay on top of, that the idle money is, in the grand scheme of things, actually more important than the PPP money for small businesses, in my opinion.
Hello, this is Melva. I'm calling from Columbus, Ohio. I own a company, XYZ Professional Services. We do surveying, architecture, and construction management. I did apply for the idle advance, and I was approved. Initially, I was advised through an email that it was in terms of being a grant, it would be up to a $10,000 grant. Once we were approved for the loan, they came back to said due to the volume of high demand that it was be reduced to $1,000 per employee. I had 2 employees, so I got $2,000.
That's everyone. I am sorry to have to cut this short, but actually our hour-long call is closing in on half an hour. And we are so thankful for you guys joining us and sharing your stories. We want to continue working with you on these issues, and we will be reaching out. We'll share this recording. We'll be reaching out with you individually to see what more we can learn from you, what more questions we can answer, and work with you on ways that you can get engaged with businesses for responsible tax reform. working on these issues that are affecting you all and our country as a whole. I just do want to say that you guys are the backbone of this economy. The survival of small business is crucial, and your voices are incredibly powerful. Poll after poll after poll, year after year after year, shows that small businesses are among the most respected voices out there in the country. And if you want to work with us, the policymakers in Washington, D.C. will listen to your concerns, and we can help you do that. So we will be in touch. So please stay safe, stay healthy, and best of luck. And we hope to continue the conversation.
Thank you.